Tuesday's apartment complex fire near the I-15 in Buffalo isn't uncommon.
We see a significant number that happen in buildings under construction. When they're under construction, they're just at a greater risk inherently for fire and for fire to spread.
The National Fire Protection Association keeps data on fires from around the country. Jonathan Hart with the organization, which happens to be in town for a conference, says recently a similar fire was deadly.
Just last month, there was a fire in Charlotte, North Carolina, where unfortunately 2 construction workers lost their life.
Here in Vegas, we're learning one firefighter was injured and taken to the hospital, but has been released since then. Right now, the cause of the fire is under investigation.
Without saying the specifics, I don't know if this fire could have been prevented. Smoky materials discarded improperly. There's also intentionally set fires.
When the investigation is done, NFPA will analyze the data.
Was it unique? Was it something that we already knew was a risk, or is it something that's new that we really need to inform the rest of the world?
Hart says a lot of people think about the hit the owner and the developer take when fires like this happen, but it goes a lot deeper than that.
There's also businesses around that area that were inaccessible yesterday while the fire was being responded to. The construction workers on that site don't have a job to return to today. The taxpayer money that went to the fire department response, the water usage, the loss of the building might have a dollar amount, but all these other things have much more of a higher loss than is typically realized.
In Kazuka, Fox 5 News, local Las Vegas.